do that? There, I.
Yeah, like, and we're having a meeting for student success. I'm going to go ahead and get started with roll call. Erica Benavides Garcia here. Jackie Levin Ramos, absent. Cindy Liendo. Here. And Karina Cari Elizondo, absent. Okay, then let's go ahead and get started with item number 3, Laredo College Enrollment Report, Dr. Fred Solis and Ms. Jessica Trevino.
Madam Chair, esteemed board members, Fred Solis, Vice President for Student Success and Enrollment for the record. We're going to have a tandem presentation for you this evening. So presenting alongside with me is also
Good evening, Jessica Trevino, Associate Vice President of Enrollment Management, and
Good evening, Jorge Dimas, Director of Admissions.
So I'll go ahead and begin by asking Mr. Dimas to come on board. But before we get started, I first want to take time to acknowledge that this report would not have been possible had it not been for the collaboration of multiple offices, including the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management, Ms. Jessica Trevino, the Director for Institutional Research and Planning, Maria Lisa Ramirez, and of course, the Director of Admissions, Mr. Jorge Dimas. So at this time, I'll call on Mr. Dimas to give us an admissions update.
Again, good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you some of exciting news, and at the same time, I would say very present during the times that actually we're having to revamp the Office of Admissions and the processes. So I recall that it was actually required that we present some of the information regarding the number of applications that we have received and of course the processes that we've been conducting at the office. So just a quick snapshot of it. We started with our spring 2023 comparison with spring of 2024. Overall, we had actually an increase of 30%. This is something that we're really proud of because we started implementing a lot of the new processes of verification to ensure that we collected the proper data. We continue to move forward with the summer of 2023 compared to 2024. As you notice, the number of applications also increased from 700 plus all the way to 2,000 plus, with an increase of a 35%. What's actually very even more interesting is also for the fall semester of last year's 2023, all the way to this fall semester. Although this fall semester we're still not over yet, this is just preliminary numbers. We still haven't actually released the official final number, but from the fall of 2023 all the way to this year's, from 3,000 plus all the way to 8,000 applications. So we continue to increase. So this is over a 47%
Congratulations,
increase.
everybody. That's awesome.
It's a very progressive increase, as you noticed, throughout this fiscal year. From 30 all the way to 47, we continue to hope that we continue to get to we hit the 50% mark. And then hopefully, again, we continue to improve our services. For a little bit more of a detail of these applications and the type of students that we're actually recruiting and bringing over to our institution, you can see below the 3 years represented over our student types, which are dual, incoming, transfer, and returning. If you notice, the dual are incoming definitely are carrying the weight of our population here at the institution. But again, not left behind the transfer and returning. Again, those are students that we're still bringing, are non-traditional that are continuing to come into our campus. So again, those are numbers also increasing, and why not maybe keeping those transfers and are returning for sure, because for some reason they decided to come back to our institution though. A little bit of the processes that we also implemented is definitely the communication though, not only through electronic versions, but also through the mail. If you notice there, we have some numbers. Right there, the missing information letter, which is a notification the moment that the students applied, also versus the acceptance letter, which is the actual notification of the students' official acceptance to the institution though. If you notice a disparity there on numbers and non-delivered emails and return mail, that's actually some of the numbers that we're really proud of. Yes, we want those numbers to be zero, but the reasons why we actually see numbers there is because some of the data that was collected was not up to date. Whether it was an email, whether it was an address, whether the person just recently changed some of that information and did not notify us. That information is reflected there, but we're really proud of because over, for example, in the mail student notifications, fiscal year 2024, over the 5,000 notifications that were sent out, only 63 letters were returned, missing information letters were returned, and only 123 acceptance letters were returned also for us. So that's something that, again, yes, we want that number to be zero, but eventually we want to make sure that we continue to update our processes and educate our community that it's important for us to collect the most updated information and to have it in our system. Moving forward, and even more exciting, again, we continue to bring the good news, right? We definitely want to provide a little bit of a representation of the student types that we're also bringing in and the prospective of students that are interested in our campuses. So, of course, the great majority of our students are coming in from the US and Mexico. But then if you notice, we also have some people from Nigeria and Italy. Yes, we do have some students interested in coming into Laredo College, start their education here, and then move on to either workforce or continue their education at a four-year institution. Last but not least, at the portion of this documents received, again, it's just a representation of what we have processed in terms of the admissions processes. We have received over 3,000 high school transcripts, 78 GED transcripts or records, official records, diplomas, and then over 1,000 college transcripts. Again, all of that is verification that we're looking into to ensure that the student is getting the most out of it. Also for those transfer students who perhaps might be interested in graduating with an associate, that also helping us out, provide the credit that they need. We're still working on some projects that definitely gonna help us out improve the validity and efficiency of our processes. But again, this is something that we want to just showcase as we're moving forward. And again, we continue to improve our services. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Orlando?
I had a question on this slide, the
Sure.
second one right here. So I'm assuming that you do send both by email and return mail?
That is correct. Let me actually go up. That is correct. On the electronic version of it, the numbers that you see are the bounce back emails that we usually get. And on the mail, usually those are the return ones, but the numbers are pretty much the same. Again, we're making sure that the students are continuing to get the notifications as fast as we can. When the students are saying that for a reason they're not receiving any notifications or something is happening with, I guess, them being updated with the processes, we usually verify when was that sent over to the addresses or the information that we have in the system. And we also provide them, which is something that I failed to include here, we also provide them with their admissions tool. There is an electronic admissions tool where they can actually log in with their Palomino ID and date of birth to see live statuses of their application and where they stand. So if for some reason the electronic and the mail fail to proceed, we also share with them the electronic opportunity or tool for them to verify their statuses.
So if they didn't receive the email, they may have received the
Correct.
regular mail.
Did they get both? That's what I was asking, right? They get both?
That is correct.
Okay.
The idea here is that they receive actually both, that we keep them engaged as well. And then the collaboration, as Dr. Fred was actually mentioning, the collaboration among the enrollment management offices in communicating when something has failed. We do also a follow-up through the Office of Recruitment and Dual financial aid as well. That's another way that we catch them there and we improve and update our services as well and the information. And of course, pretty much any other offices within the enrollment management. Again, we wanted to make sure that we collect and have the most updated information just because at the very end, how do we even communicate with the students if we don't have that updated information?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Right now.
Perfect, thank you.
I do want to make an observation, if I may, regarding the electronic student notifications you see on the left-hand side of your screen. We did notice that some students who were applying with a district email address, whether it be, for instance, UISD, LISD, Zapata, any of our district partners, seem to have not gotten the email, but we didn't get a bounce back either. So we don't know if it was a firewall issue at the district or not. So what the solution to that has been is to encourage students to apply to the college using a personal email address so that we stir away from the district email and avoid any lost communication as well. In the near future, we hope to send some of these notifications via text message as well.
Oh, that sounds good. Mhm.
Well, Madam Chair and board members, as you can see, the whole enrollment process begins with the admissions process. And so
Right.
as that moves on to become a successful process, then we anticipate it translating into enrollments. But I do have quite a bit of positive news to share with you regarding our current enrollment. The chart that you see currently before you on the on the left-hand side rather, depicts a fall comparison enrollment between fall of 23 and fall of 2024. Back in fall of 2023, our overall enrollment was 10,166. This was our final certified number with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. When you look at how that number came about, 5,768 were regular LC students, whereas 4,398 were dual credit students. So combined, both of these numbers is what gives us our overall number of 10,166 for last fall. Similarly, as of today, September 23rd, as of this morning, we already have 11,031 students enrolled for the fall semester. And that, again, similarly is comprised of two student populations. We have the Laredo College students, totaling 5,976, and our dual credit students totaling 5,055 as of now. And again, I think it's important that we highlight and identify that that's the enrollment count as of this morning. Our second start or our second 8-week semester hasn't started yet. It'll start until October the 15th. So there's still a lot of time for additional enrollment to occur. So key takeaways, overall enrollment is up by 865 students or 8.5%. Our regular student population enrollment is up by 208 students, or 3.6%. Our dual credit enrollment is up by 657 students, or 14.9. As you can see, dual credit had the majority of the jump or the bump. In fall of 2023, dual enrollment students accounted for 43.2% of our enrollment. Today, as we speak, it accounts for 45.8% of our enrollment. So our good majority of our student population is comprised of dual credit students. Any questions with this slide?
No.
No.
All right, as we continue to look at our continuing education enrollment, again, on the left-hand side, you have the enrollment that was reported to the state at the end of November back in 2023. November happens to be the last month of the quarter. Continuing ed does not run on terms like the credit side does. They run on quarters. And so what was reported in 2023 was 1,275 enrollments for fall of 2023. As of today, again, it's important to qualify that this is the enrollment we have right now. We currently stand at 261 students for quarter one on the continuing ed. Now, what that means is we're only really halfway through September. We still have the rest of September to continue enrolling additional classes. We also have the whole month of October and the whole month of November. So this number, we're for sure are on track to make up, if not exceed last year's number.
Dr. Solis, I was gonna ask you, last year at this time, was it about the same?
It's about the same, yes, yeah. And again, what we're striving for right now is to get to this number here and surpass it, the 1275. And so that's gonna be contingent on what else is scheduled for the month of September, what else continuing ed continues to schedule for October and for November. So the key takeaways here is, although the numbers show that we're behind by 1,014 students, or 79.5%, I do wanna emphasize to the committee that this only represents enrollments halfway through September. So again, we still have the rest of the month plus October and November coming. Any questions with this slide?
No.
Okay. Now, the next portion of the presentation is actually item number 4 on the agenda. And so with the committee's permission, can I go ahead and then
Yes,
proceed with that? Okay. So in looking at the course section comparison, we're taking a look at the comparison of course sections from fall of 2023 to fall of 2024, where we're at as of today. And so on the left-hand side of the chart, you're gonna find out that in the fall of 23, we scheduled 1,528 sections overall. If we take a breakdown of those 1,528 sections, 877 were in the academics, which is represented by the green bar here. This is what you would normally refer to general education courses, or otherwise known as your basics, or otherwise known as your transfer level courses. We had 530 sections in the workforce area, or the technical vocational areas. And we had 121 sections under continuing ed at the end of quarter one. So again, these were all the final numbers we ended up with at the end of fall 2023. Where we are right now, again, qualifying the date as of this morning, we are at 1,561 sections for the fall 24 schedule. When we took a look at the distribution, we have over 1,167 sections scheduled in the general academic areas, or the basics, as some people know them. We have 354 sections under the workforce. And again, because we're just starting out quarter one and the continuing ed, we only have 40 sections as of now. So the key takeaways for this particular chart are as follows. Overall sections are up by 33 sections, or 2.5%, when we compare the 1528 to the 1561. But when we look at the disaggregation, we notice that the majority of the sections that are now being offered are in academics. Those grew by 290 sections, or 33%. Followed by workforce education that had a slight drop from 107 down to 107 by 176 rather, or representing a minus of 33.2%. And of course, the CE sections are still behind by 81 sections, only because we're just beginning Q1. And soon we'll have new programming for the rest of September, October, and November. Another key takeaway is that fall registration technically is not over yet. We still have to start, or do we still have our second start that won't begin until October the 15th. So registration will still continue for that term. And then there are other mini terms like in workforce that come up in the 4-week terms for those type of classes as well. So this number that you see currently right now for fall 24 will only continue to grow as the registration continues.
Very good. Ms. Yendo has a question.
Thank you. Is there a way for us to track to see if maybe some of the students that were taking workforce and continuing education courses last session or last semester, that maybe now they're taking academic courses? Or,
We
I
could-
mean, for an associate or for a different type of
That
program?
maybe have transitioned to a
Yes.
regular program. Yeah, I think we can do that, yes. We
I
can
mean, it would be
certainly.
interesting to see because I
Mhm.
think, especially now with the Palomino pledge, maybe if it was something before that they couldn't afford and now they can,
Mhm.
they've decided to transition to a different,
The typical
degree.
progression for a continuing ed student is to join the workforce side for a more formal degree, such as an associate's degree and so forth. And then likewise for the associate degree completer, then they tend to take whatever necessary courses are needed to transfer out. And so there's always this progression of tiering their different courses that they need. But we can certainly focus on those two student populations, both workforce and continuing ed, and see how many jumped over to the academic side.
I'm just curious to see
Sure.
how it would happen. And then, of course, for us to just, I know that we promote the associates program a
Mhm.
lot, but we can certainly work on promoting the workforce and continuing education a little more. Although I do see
Exactly.
it, I've seen it in, the marketing is being done well, but we can always
Exactly.
do more.
Yes.
Let me ask, and is there a particular reason why it's gone down? The workforce and, I know about the continuing ed, but what about workforce? What do you think?
For that, I'm going to have to defer to our provost for that.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Marisela Rodriguez Tijerina, Provost Vice President of Academic Affairs. I know with the workforce programs, what we've done, what used to be, let's say, an associate of applied science degree, we narrowed it down to just a 1-year certificate, only because the associate degree was not applicable to the industry. So in other words, they could have already just gotten the certificate, and I know that we take loss, but in the idea of putting relevancy to the education, it's I rather get them what they need versus forcing them to be here an additional year for not to say that they can't pursue an applied science, but we also redesigned the curriculum and really focus on the industry needs, because I know like for the industrial department, we really narrowed down a lot of the 2 years to 1. We also, in computer technology, as an example, we had like 5 different associate degrees and the only difference was 1 course. And so there was a lot of cleaning up that we've done in the past 6 years. And a lot of it is at the end to benefit the student. So.
That's good. Thank you.
But it's not to say that we're not analyzing. Part of the program review evaluation is to look at those high demand fields and explore other new programs,
That's
you
what I
know,
was gonna
so
How
there
could
might
we-
be,
How could we raise
Yeah.
our numbers again,
yeah, no, we added that component in our program reviews this year and they're due this Friday. So part of the analysis is to see, okay, what is a high demand field? Can your department offer that high demand? What do we need in order to offer it? Or can it just be an addition, let's say from that 1-year certificate, add another semester or so? But those are discussions that I have with each of the departments after they do their program review evaluation.
Okay, and maybe we can do a little bit even further analysis, like, um, I guess really when it comes to, well, I guess all three, but I guess more so with workforce or continuing ed is that let's look at our numbers now between maybe the South Campus and the main campus. Maybe our hours, like where are most of the courses or not necessarily, but where are the demand for more courses? Are they in the morning, maybe from 8 to 12, or from in the midday from 12 to 5, or maybe in the evenings? Like, I'm just curious to see like where we are in each space. I don't know, Ms. Lindo, I don't know if you have anything else.
The other thing I forgot to add is that some of the programs, like for nursing assistant, it used to be a workforce credit or health science credit. Financial aid no longer covers that. So when the financial aid rules, I think Stephen, oh, there you are. What year was that? The hours where we moved neuro to a continuing program? That was about 5 years? Same time. So that program had to go into a continuing ed program, which also, drops the numbers in regards to workforce. I will say the other thing that has helped is that what has helped academics, I'll be honest, is the dual enrollment
Sure.
early college. Because if you notice at graduation, where do we get most of the dual students in their cap and gowns? It's gonna be in the academics. They don't enter a lot of the workforce because there's a lot of requirements, like particularly in the health sciences, where they can't enter them because of these added admission processes, or they have to be 18. So those are also evolving things that obviously, none of us can really account for,
Right.
but dual, has impacted more of the
Sure.
academics and the workforce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if it pleases the committee, we can certainly come back with those reports that you've requested
Yes,
at our next student success.
okay, and then could you also include maybe like the face-to-face, also comparison of face-to-face and online and hybrid classes, how we're doing there? And I did want to point out that your presentation is very, very easy to read and
Oh.
easy to understand.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like the comparison, I mean, it's just, you did a very good job. You all did a very good job.
It's a team effort.
Your
and
team,
so
thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the sections?
No,
Okay. And so that pretty much concludes that portion, item number 3 and number 4 of the agenda.
okay. Then we'll move on to item number 5, financial aid report, Mr. Steven Aguilar and Ms. Monica Rodriguez.
Madam Chair, board members, Steven Aguilar, Financial Aid Director. Today I'm going to give you a brief overview of the financial aid updates. I'm going to talk a little bit about enrollment, about the monies that we have awarded, and some new updates from the Department of Ed. So let me start with the FAFSA applications. To date, we have received 8,684 applications. In 23-24, for the whole year, we received 11,200. So we are already ahead of the ballgame, and we haven't even finished the following terms. So there's a difference of 2516. And for verification, that last year prior, we had 2,000 plus students that were selected for verification. To date, we only have been selected 209. These selections are done by the Department of Ed. We here at Laredo College Financial Aid, we don't add an extra burden to our students. We just verify whatever is sent from the Department of Ed. I know know that other institutions may have different policies, but we make it as easy as possible for our students. So we have, to this date, 6,374 students have been packaged for aid in the modes of Pell Grant, SEOG, on-campus TPEG, TOG, and I'll be talking about the differences of federal and state in my following slide. Out of those 4,219 are enrolled. And so we continue to enroll students. They continue to enroll, and it's coming for the next term. So let me talk about financial aid awards. Let me start with the federal awards. So federal awards, the Pell Grant is one of our biggest contributors to our students' education. There is nothing bigger than the Pell Grant. To date, and I apologize for the typo, that we have awarded 12.2 million. It's not 1.1 million. For a total number of 3,676 students, and we have paid 6.5 million, meaning that, of course, we have different terms coming up. We are going to award, and we're going to go over the 12.2 million. Now, this is federal awards. This is coming from the federal government. Now, the next one is the SAOG. It's a supplemental educational open opportunity grant. This we have awarded 160,000 to 402 students, and we have paid out 115,000. So we have still room to give out more to our students. So these numbers from the federal have increased from the year before. At this time last year, for the whole year, we had awarded only 10 million, and now we're up to 12, meaning enrollment is growing, more students are coming, we are helping and giving more money. So that's a big help. So now let me go to the state. So the state, the TOG, these monies, these funds are not like the federal. We get very limited funds. We are at the mercy of the state when they increase or they decrease. Sometimes they could increase and sometimes they could decrease this. So the TOG, the Texas Equal Opportunity Grant, we have awarded $1 million to 270 students, out of which we have paid 750,000. Again, we have the next semesters coming up. We are going to give all that money away. And then we have the on-campus TPEG, which we have awarded $160,000 to 242 students, and we have paid $145,000 of TPEG. So those grants are the grants that we are mostly giving to the students. There's other grants and there's other scholarships that students get awarded aside from this. But just awarding the students the Pell Grant, 96% of our students qualify for some aid, 84% qualified for the full amount. So that's why those numbers are increasing, the amount of money that we have delivered, and again, based on the students' need. Now, let me talk about some FAFSA updates. And before I start, the same thing that I came here last year and told you about, that there was a FAFSA simplification, different changes coming up. We are still going through those challenges as we speak. The government has said that they're going to release the FAFSA in December 1st. Usually the FAFSA is always open in October 1st. Last year, we heard the same story, and we had to go through different challenges and work extra, that's what we do all the time to help our students. So although I'm telling you December 1st, that can change at any time. That can change. They could come back and we won't receive it until January. So I just want you to keep in mind that similarities from the 24-25, they're going to keep the same amount of questions, 36 questions. They're going to improve the user experience from the feedback from college and universities. What do I mean by that? The FAFSA this year, when it rolled out, it had a whole bunch of errors. And the verbiage was not tailored to an individual from a senior graduating and a parent that doesn't understand the FAFSA. And yes, they reduced the questions from 100 to 36. Right. But if you log into the FAFSA, it's a long story, each section. So they have told us through NASFA and through FSA that those things are going to change based on all the feedback the colleges and universities, which we send some feedback back to the Department of Education, or letting them know the challenges that we face with parents with no socials and verification of those parents. Because before, parents that did not have a social did not need an FSA ID. Now, every single person, regardless, needs an FSA ID. But for those type of students, the burden was even extra. They had to call, verify, and I'm gonna tell you, sometimes we would call 3 hours in the phone to get a hold of somebody in Washington to get help. We try our best. We awarded most of these students that were in that predicament emergency loans. Now that the financial aid is coming in, then those monies are paid through financial aid funding.
So, Mr. Aguilar,
Yeah.
because of last year, then we are really prepared for this year.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are better prepared. But again, they always throw something out there that we have to, it's a challenge, but we have learned how to navigate the challenges with the help of administration. We have, the staff and I and the enrollment management has done a great job to get through all our students as much as we can and to ease the burden on the student.
Okay, very good.
Yes. So now a new feature, they're gonna have an enhanced navigation tool, help tool. Again, we had a chat that the student, while they're doing the FAFSA, they could ask right away and supposed to be live. That did not work. That would take forever. So now, one of the biggest information is they're gonna have live personnel rolling out during the December 1st rollout of the FAFSA. But again, we take it with a grain of salt because the Department of Ed is, they change things around.
Right.
Now, the streamline of the question, making it easier, I think I mentioned that because the verbiage was, I don't wanna, it's not conducive to any student, even college students and university students that go to UT Austin, they will have trouble filling out an application like this because it was very difficult. Telling you from experience, I'm pretty sure here they could attest to that the questions were very complicated and different. That's my presentation. Do you guys have any questions? It was a brief update on the numbers, on the awards that we give our students. But I just want to make sure that you guys know that we're doing everything in our possibilities to award every single student, to minimize the balances that they owe, and to improve our services.
How do you, like, to me, it's like, I wanna know,
Yes.
like on the student side, how are they handling this whole thing with the FAFSA that they're not receiving their, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Getting all their monies or their information, whatever. on
So
time.
let me tell you, like I said, we had challenges at the beginning, but with communication, with emails, with phone calls, with reaching out, not only my office, but the recruitment office, working as a team with the admissions office, because they play a critical role in our function. We managed to award most of these students.
Okay.
Now, the ones that we had difficulties based on verification and all of that, when payment deadline, we awarded as many emergency loans to those students. And most of those students, the emergency loan is not gonna be on them. The financial aid will pay for it. It was just the lapse of time that was taking for the Department of Ed to fix it and for us to have an answer. So that was a challenge, but we will overcome by helping our students with emergency loans, and we're gonna keep doing the same thing. If we have the same challenges, that's a very good buffer that helps us help the student and regain the monies for the institution.
Okay, and I think that Dr. Ramirez had talked to me about something called the Pell recalculation date.
Yes, the Pell recalculation date. So the Pell recalculation date is actually today, in the 23rd.
Okay.
The Pell recalculation date is a policy set by the federal government that we need to abide by. Any college or university have to set the policy, but it's a regulation that we have to implement to help our students. Now, meeting with the president, with enrollment management, with my vice president, with the associate vice president, we came to the conclusion that the 23rd was the best date for our students. The best, what do I mean by the best date? Because any student that is registered by the 23rd, they are going to get paid their financial aid. Now, if those students dropped after the 23rd, those students before they would owe a balance. This time, if they drop, let's say tomorrow on the 24th, guess what? They have earned 100% of their aid between the first day of class and the PRD, which is today, the 23rd. So at the end of the day, we will run list, and we're probably gonna run it until 11 to get those numbers. And I'm gonna tell you that I think that we're gonna have lots of improvement. Less students are gonna owe balance it, meaning that they are gonna be able to register. One of the biggest challenges for our students is that they would, we would give them the financial aid, they would drop, and they would owe, I don't know, $800. Students in our community don't have $800 to just come and pay. Although we do have options, we have payment plans and all of that for our students. But we know that it's difficult for them. So by doing this, identifying this date and having to put have our students go through an easier path of less resistance, more benefit for the student. And I always say that that is something very important, and that's what we did, and that's why we have the PRD. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anything
Ms.
else?
Lindo, anything?
Ms. Garcia, may I add?
Yes, of course.
I just do want to add to the Pell recalculation date. It is something that we continue to explore every semester. This past spring semester, we had a different Pell recalculation date, and we have the number of students that per se have a balance now after the recalculation date. So the Pell recalculation date, like Mr. Aguilar mentioned, the students who are registered up until today will get 100% of their financial aid on those enrollment hours that they currently have. Okay, it doesn't mean that after today, we can't register anybody. Dr. Solis just mentioned that registration continues.
Right.
It simply means that if a student is registered today for 9 semester credit hours and is on federal Pell Grant, because it's only affecting
Yeah,
federal Pell Grant, and if they're enrolled for 9 semester credit hours up to today, and tomorrow they want to come and add 3 extra hours to be at full time, federal Pell Grant will only be calculated on the 9 semester credit hours, not the full 12. However, if we have a new student who can, before I go to the new student, nonetheless, because of the cost of our tuition, the 9 semester credit hour federal Pell Grant would still cover 100% of their tuition and fee cost because of our tuition, of our low tuition. However, a student may say, well, I'm entitled to 12 hours. That is correct. You were entitled to 12 hours if you were registered before the Pell recalculation date or on Pell recalculation date. Luckily, our tuition being what it is, allows students where even at 6 semester credit hours, they can still get what we would charge for 12 hours paid for on that Pell Grant.
So then, okay, so then since our courses are 8 weeks long, and so let's say they take 6 hours and 6 hours, right?
Right.
Or 9 and 6, or
Right.
whatever, a full
A full load.
load. Then on the 23rd, that would cover both of the 8 weeks?
Yes, so that is the only
If they're
requirement.
registered or just?
That is the caveat. Yes, that is
Okay.
the caveat.
Okay.
So unfortunately, the Department of Education does freeze the enrollment on the Pell recalculation date. So for instance, the encouragement is that the student registers for all of their classes, first 8 weeks and second 8 weeks early, before the Pell recalculation date. So this same scenario, if the student was enrolled for 6 hours first 8 weeks and 6 hours second 8 weeks, but they're already enrolled, then their financial aid is being frozen at 12 credit hours. Okay, it's the students who were enrolled for 6 and then come tomorrow and say, literally tomorrow,
Yes.
and then come and say, I'm registering another 6. We will only be able to calculate Pell on 6.
And you guys did, like, when they receive that grant, you let them know that information?
Yes, so we did send out a communication to all of the students who are specifically receiving federal Pell Grant to inform them about this Pell recalculation date and what it meant. As simply as we possibly could. In addition to that, we did run enrollment reports to see which of the students who are on Pell Grant who were enrolled below the 12 semester credit hours so that we could encourage that enrollment to full-time before today.
And let me ask you, last year's date you said was different than this year's date, like after so many days.
Mhm.
What date did you have last year? Did you bring it in or did you extend?
So actually, what happened, so there's another portion to the Pell recalculation date. It's the students who withdraw a class. For instance, if I'm registered for 12 semester credit hours, for the first, for 12
16
semester
weeks or
credit
whatever.
hours, 6 hours for the first 8 weeks, 6 hours for the second 8 weeks. And I attended the classes, 2 classes in the first 8 weeks, but I decided that I wasn't doing so well in one and I'm gonna withdraw the class.
Okay.
Because we have not yet have the Pell recalculation free state, if this student dropped a class to earn a W yesterday or last Friday, for
Mhm,
instance,
mhm.
Pell recalculation date is today. So now their Pell Grant is only gonna be calculated on 9 hours. Initially, it
The
was
3
12.
and the 6. Okay.
Initially, it was 12, 6 and 6.
Right, right.
But they withdrew before the Pell recalculation date. So that Pell recalculation is gonna be recalculated on 9 hours, not the initial 12
Sure.
that they had. So what happens with that? We already paid out for these two, which means this is the balance that Mr. Aguilar is talking about. Now, I'm gonna be responsible for
For that,
paying
those
back
3 hours.
those 3 hour, that 3 hour financial aid. Now, why today, specifically the 23rd? Because withdrawal date for this first 8 weeks, the last date to possibly withdraw with a W is on September 26th, which means if a student needs to drop a class and earn a W, if they drop tomorrow, they're already frozen at 12 semester credit hours for their financial aid. The student will still earn the W that they would have earned on Friday, tomorrow,
Sure.
but it'll be in benefit of the student, trying to make sure that we find a date that affects the least amount of possible students. We have the study from the spring semester, and there is a total of 294 or 54, 254. I knew
Wow.
254 students that were affected per se in this situation,
Okay.
and we want to make sure that that number is less this fall semester. So again, it's a date that continues to change and that we continue to study and monitor to make sure that we affect the least number of students possible. Now, what does this mean? I was gonna go to a new student. If we have a completely new student coming in tomorrow, okay, a new student who recently applies for admissions, and a new student, more than anything, who recently applies for financial aid through the FAFSA application. If we receive what we call their financial aid application ISER, their student report, tomorrow forward, they're considered a new student for financial aid. That means their financial aid awards will be calculated on the day of their enrollment. So let's say they apply for financial aid today, we get the financial aid application report on Thursday. And on Friday, they go to advising and they register for classes. That Friday, we are going to calculate their award based on what they're registered for classes. We have already spoken to advising, and we mentioned this at the leadership meeting, that the encouragement is that on the day the student registers, they register for their full load because that's going to be the calculation date. So again, it's a very complicated process that we are trying to simplify as much as we can to make sure that we study and analyze which of the dates hurts the least amount of students, or
Very good. Y'all have been doing your homework. Very, very good.
a little bit.
Very good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Okay. Then we'll move on to number 6, the Laredo College Mealtime, Mr. Pedro Rivera.
Good evening, everybody. Pedro Rivera, for the record, Director of Student Life. see here. My presentation is very, very brief. It's just sharing numbers, sharing, some developments that we've had so far. So I would like to start by saying that this year, for this academic year, we do have a budget of $1 million. And so one of the main considerations that we're making through my office is basically determining the best way to make sure that those $1 million are lasting throughout fall, spring, and the summer sessions. This first 8 weeks of the fall 2024 semester, we did have 2,339 students who were eligible to receive the meal plan and who have received those $200 in their student IDs. However, only 1,401 of those students have actually used their meal plans. We do have a daily average of approximately 450 to 500 students that are using it on a daily basis. Today at around 2 p.m., we actually had 592 that had used it up to that time. 938 students have not used their meal plans. Now, the number one reason we've been reaching out to them, we send them emails all the time. The number one reason that we have determined why students do not use their meal plans as of now is actually because of the fact that they don't have a Palomino ID. So moving forward, we are going to be launching a social media campaign. We're going to be working with social media and marketing to basically determine a way to promote getting your student ID and teaching students how to use the meal plan. That is actually the second reason a lot of students basically tell us, hey, I did not know how to use a meal plan. I didn't even know I had the meal plan. And so determining additional ways to reach out to them. I know that we have already begun sharing that information with them, but we just have to go a little bit further in order to make sure that we reach out as many eligible students as possible. And another main reason that they may have not used their meal plans yet is because they just haven't started classes, and they'll be starting classes the upcoming 8 weeks. And so this number, it looks pretty high, but it's nothing to be alarmed of. I do think that, once we reach out to them, once the new 8 weeks begin, we should be fine. So far, we have dispersed or allocated $467,000, and so we do have enough money for the spring and the summer semester. I will say, out of these 467,000 that we have given out already, not every single penny will be used. A lot of students operate the meal plan and they use it as a rainy day type of fund, which means that they'll just use it sporadically whenever they need it. They won't necessarily use a meal plan in one given week. And so in the long run, that means good news for us because we can, in essence, prolong the meal plan for the upcoming semester. So in terms of some important developments, we have added Levy's Mexicue to the Fort McIntosh, which is an additional food option that a lot of our students are loving. They do have some of the good stuff that the students are looking for, tostilotes, esquites, things of that nature. So that's always a welcome sight here at Fort McIntosh. And over at the South Campus, we will be counting with Chick-fil-A. That's also for sure another addition that I know a lot of students will be very, very happy about. And like I mentioned before, just the active promotion of the meal plan, getting the word out there, letting people know that they need their student ID, how to get their student ID, and how to use the meal plan. So just for everybody and for the record, currently the meal plan funds are added to the student's ID, to their Palomino ID. We operate using something called a declining balance, which means that if the student wanted to purchase a $1 can of Coke, they could. In the past, it has proven to be fruitful because it basically gives the student flexibility to use the money however they see fit. If for whatever reason, for example, they wanted to buy meals for the person behind them, they could. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the students that have used their meal plans have actually only used, $5, $10 from the total amount given to them because they only feel that that's the need that they need to use. But yes, the main thing that we want to focus on is just teaching students how to use the meal plan once they have it. I do think the best way to do so will be by instructional videos, quick 20-30-second videos, the attention
Like
span
a
of the
YouTube
student.
style.
Yeah, like a TikTok style.
Oh, TikTok.
Yeah,
I'm-
pretty quick, straight to the point.
I'm old.
Like this presentation. That pretty much concludes the presentation regarding the fall 2024 meal plan.
Great.
You have any questions?
Questions, comments, concerns?
No, I just think, it's great that you're getting that feedback and that, I think it's important, the videos that you're gonna be working on showing them how to use it. Because they might have it and just be embarrassed to, go up to the Chick-fil-A and be declined because they didn't know how to properly use it, and that nobody wants to be put in an embarrassing situation, so.
Interestingly enough, that is one of the feedback that I received from one of my students today. They stopped by the office and they basically told me, I don't want to go up there and the thing bounces on me.
Yeah.
Another interesting feedback that I received from one of my students that actually works at the pantry was the fact that they had not used their meal plan because the pantry is there. So they basically said, hey, why use my money when I can get food at the food pantry?
That's good.
Which is good, right?
Yes.
It's what we're trying to do, and it shows that both programs are working. But I will say that in terms of the pantry, there's much more support this semester than we had 2-3 semesters ago. And so that's another thing that I didn't really add there because I haven't done enough research to openly add that to the presentation, but it's something that should be mentioned nonetheless.
Great, thank you.
And let me ask you, also, I wanted to ask you one more thing, Mr. Rivera, about the South Campus. Because I know that we had gotten like, concerns, right? About, having options for them
Mm.
and having coffee at,
Of course.
how is that going along, or are we still working on that?
I think we have more options than we've had ever before. So we do have Sendero Coffee. Sendero Coffee focuses on coffee, pastries, croissants, muffins, things of that nature, quick grab and go breakfast items. In terms of lunch, we count with Eduardo's and Chick-fil-A. So for Chick-fil-A, we're pretty familiar. You know, they have their chicken sandwiches, salads, wraps, fruit, parfaits, drinks. Eduardo's is very, very flexible. They do count with breakfast tacos, which are always a hit, and they're really, really good. I would recommend them to you. And they also count with daily meals. And so they have a wide array of different meals that they offer. I've had from them specifically, I've had tortas, they've had enchiladas, tacos. They have a lot of different things. It does vary from day to day, which adds to that having a variety of things to try on a daily basis. But I think with the addition of Chick-fil-A, we just provide them more food options.
And let me ask one more thing. And then what about like the students that go in the evening, like they get out of work and then they go to evening classes? Is there something like, even if it's just a, what do you call it? Where you put money in, I can't think of the
Like a
word.
vending machine.
A vending machine, yes, I'm sorry.
So there are vending machines on both.
Like for a
both
meal, like a
campuses.
sandwich vending machine or something.
That's a question that you have to ask the
Okay.
man over there. The only thing that I will say is it's very difficult to upkeep that
know, yeah.
because the food, if
It goes
gets
bad, like
yeah.
after certain days.
But I do know that Chick-fil-A and Mr. Vela is actually working on, increasing the hours.
The
of
hours,
operation
okay.
For these restaurants. Here at the Fort McIntosh, we do have Chick-fil-A who's here till 7-8 p.m. And their sales prove how fruitful it is to
Sure.
be open for longer hours of operation. And so it's just a matter of keeping the lines of communication open with our vendors and just telling them, hey, there is money here. Just
Right.
stay
Maybe
stick around
stay
a
with
bit
us
later.
till 6:30 or
definitely.
7 or something.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you also very much.
Well, do I hear a motion to adjourn? And I guess I second, so thank you all very much. Thank you very much for being here. Y'all, all your hard work and is showing. So thank you very, very much. Good job, everybody.